Hello and welcome inside episode 14 of the Scully Scoop podcast. I'm your host, Adam Scully. I'm really excited about this upcoming episode. I've had a lot of golfers on the show, some hockey players, some people from TSN, but this is someone that I've been dying to interview for a very long time. It's our first Olympic gold medalist on the show. We're going to jump right into it. My guest this week is Mark McKoy, who won a gold medal in 1992 in the 110-meter hurdles for Canada. Let's hear from Mark McKoy. And we're now pleased to welcome Mark McKoy, who represented Canada at 4 Olympic Games, 5 World Championships, 2 Commonwealth Games, and of course, won a gold medal at the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. Mark, welcome to the show.
Adam, it's a pleasure to be here. I did all that.
You did all of that. You've done a lot in your life, sir. We haven't actually met in person. We were just discussing, but it's nice to Zoom meet you, I guess. How has life in these unprecedented times been for you?
I don't know what all the fuss is about. I haven't noticed any difference in my life. My life's been exactly the same.
Perfect. Well, that's good. Now, in terms of your career right now as a trainer, mentor, that sort of thing, have you been doing any different kinds of workouts, like stuff on Zoom, or has there been anything like that?
Well, that's the thing. Like most of my clients, I'm outdoors with. Unless there's lightning, I'm outside. That's what I tell them. If it's pouring down with rain or if it's snowing, we're outside. And I live in Etobicoke, and I'm not too far from Centennial Park, which is a great facility. I shouldn't be telling you this. It's Toronto's best kept secret. It's got everything I need. It's got hills. It's got fields. It's got track. It's got everything we need. And I've always trained outside. Like I do very little gym work. So when all this hit, I just kept social distancing, of course.
Of course.
Obeying law. The police have been there and they've been watching us. And they're like, you guys are doing great. You're staying 6 feet apart. We're running up hills. So nothing in my life has changed whatsoever.
That's amazing. Now, in terms of strength work for any sort of athlete outdoors, is it a lot of circuits or plyometrics, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I've always believed that most people train wrong. Hence the reason we don't get that many medals, and we don't, we don't have that many high-level athletes. Although we have a lot of talent in Canada, don't get me wrong, we just do it wrong. I've always approached things. If I see somebody doing something one way, I do it the exact opposite because most people are successful, and I don't want to have what everybody else is having. So I do the exact opposite. So it's like when you see I train a lot. I work a lot with hockey players. So a lot of them came back early this year, and most of them go to these strength and conditioning camps in their off season. Well, I say no, you guys got it wrong. It should be conditioning and strength, because if you're in condition, the strength work is the easy part. Anybody can go to the gym and throw weights around. I can do that in my sleep. But get these guys out there and do the conditioning part of it, the running, the hills. They're dying. But that's what's getting them in shape, and that's what they do in sport. Nobody throws weights around on the ice. So all my guys do a lot more conditioning than they do strength. Yeah,
I was going to ask. So I guess you won't really see guys working out with you, deadlifting 600 pounds or anything. It's more just doing stuff that you would do as if you were on the ice or on the track or on the court, sort of thing, right?
Exactly. Not saying you don't need strength. Not saying we can't deadlift 600 pounds, because we do. There's a certain portion of our training that now we're getting into,
right?
Which is powerlifting, power cleans, snatches. We still squat and bench and stuff like that, but more the lifting that you usually see, the deadlifts and the slow static lifting, doesn't work in sport. And that's why, again, most of the guys that come home and do this stuff don't really excel.
And that's where some injuries happen as well. We'll get back into training here in a little bit. I want to talk about your career. I mentioned your list of accomplishments. It's obviously very long, very impressive. But how did you initially get into track?
Well, I was brought up in England. So
right.
When I came here, I was 12, and I did soccer, of course, because every British kid plays soccer, and cross country. So the combination of the two, we do a lot of running, a lot of speed stuff in soccer, and a lot of conditioning and a longer work doing cross country. So I came over here, and obviously soccer wasn't that big back in the 70s, so that sort of fell by the wayside. All my friends, I'm from Guyana, so a lot of my friends were West Indian, and they all did track. So I migrated from cross country to track and field. I actually wanted to be a sprinter, and funny thing, one of my best friends just texted me. I haven't talked to him in a while. His name's Tony Sharp, one of Canada's best sprinters back in the day. He's one of the first guys I met when I came to Canada. He's from Jamaica, and he was the fastest guy in our region. So I was getting beat all the time. So I decided, I don't like to come second or third or fourth. And that's how I got into hurdling, because nobody did hurdles and I could win.
Now, who are some of the athletes, or were there any athletes who you looked up to and idolized?
Not really when I started. Like I said, I sort of fell into, my coach at my high school with Tony said, you know what, do hurdles because nobody else is doing it. And if you don't do that, you're not making the team. So it wasn't like a choice.
Yeah.
And there were no real hurdlers in Canada at the time. There still aren't to look up to. The only guy I looked up to was when I got a scholarship to Clemson, South Carolina. And in our conference was a guy named Ronaldo Nehemiah, who went on to play for San Francisco as a wide receiver, but he was the world record holder in the hurdles at the time. And he was sort of my idol because he was the best. And I wanted to be like him. I asked him, I talked to him about how to do workouts and what I should be doing. So he's really the only guy when I was growing up. And again, I was already in college that I looked up to as an athlete.
And did you have like an aha moment or a turning point where you realized that you could compete with the world's best?
Not really. Again, it was just a natural progression. I was relatively quick, but not fast enough to be just a flat out sprinter.
Right.
I won OFSA a couple of times in high school. Mm-hmm. Got a scholarship, a little bit better. Didn't make the NC2As or anything like that. Then from there, I talked to, again, Ronaldo, who's the sort of guy who put me on the right path of the type of training I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And with his training, I won the Commonwealth Games. So that was that was not an aha moment, but that's when I sort of stepped into the world scene.
You mentioned the Commonwealth Games, 1982, the first gold. Tell us about that experience. How special was that for you?
Yeah, no, that was great because number one, it was in Australia. So as a how old was I then? 20-year-old, traveling around the world, going down to Australia. It was, beautiful country. We trained there many times. I love going there. And I was ranked probably, like I was lucky to make the final. So it was a huge jump from going to the final and then actually winning. So it was a huge surprise. Well, I wasn't favored to win or anything like that. And it was on my mother's birthday. So even better. It was a bonus.
Oh, that's a great bonus. Did you guys speak right after? I'm sure that conversation must have been pretty special.
I did. Actually, I can't remember who was covering it at the time, either CBC or don't even think it was a TSN back then.
There wasn't.
So, yeah. So one of those, they called my parents right away. And we did talk, right. I think even before I got on the podium.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, 4 years later, you go back and you win gold again at the Commonwealth Games. What did you take from the first experience that you're maybe able to apply the second time around in 1986?
Well, Commonwealth is a little, at the time, it was a little easier to win than, a World Championship or Olympic because the Americans weren't there, the Europeans weren't there. So I went into 86. Actually, I went in injured, and I hadn't run for a couple of weeks. I pulled my hamstring a little bit before. I wasn't too concerned because, again, there was most of the people were there from 4 years prior, and I was getting better. They were getting older. But there was one little upstart, again, a guy who we'll probably talk about later on in the podcast, Colin Jackson from Great Britain, who was a junior at the time. He just won the Junior World Championships. I still wasn't worried because he was a kid, but he pushed me all the way to the wire. He was a surprise. He came out of nowhere. In the race, it was a little tense at times, but I think I was really relaxed because I really wasn't concerned because, going to the Olympics and going to the World Championships before that, this time I was sort of the favorite. So it was a relaxed race.
Oh, right on. We're in conversation with Mark McKoy. Okay, Mark, take us back to 1992, 110-meter hurdle finals, winning Olympic gold for Canada. Just how special is that?
Well, I get as an amateur athlete, that's what we dream of. Even pro athletes, like we had the dream team there that year. A lot of athletes who make a lot of money still want to go to the Olympics and win. Like the Olympics is a very special event. It's once every 4 years. It's not like a championship like the Stanley Cup that we have every year. Mm-hmm. You miss it, you got to wait. I always tell people it's 1,600 and something days or 1,561 days or something like that between each Olympics. So it's a long time, a lot of training. Again, wasn't favored. My training partner, Colin Jackson, was the favorite. I'd actually been living in Wales for 3 years, training with him. He was the best in the world at the time. So I was very fortunate. Just coming off an Achilles surgery, as a matter of fact, and I went over there. He invited me over. He's, in my opinion, the best hurdler of all time, even though his world record's gone now, but still the best of all time. And his coach, Malcolm Arnold, great guy, great coach. And basically, they're the guys that brought me back after my surgery. And, you know, the training for the 3 years was phenomenal. It was, every session was, you know, a competitive session because Colin was there. And when we went into even going up, we were training in a training camp the weeks leading up to Barcelona, and Colin was kicking my ass royally. Say that on your show.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
But you know, so I was happy with the way things was going, and I was almost, you know, ready to settle for a second because he was that good. He was really, you know, he was really on form that year. But I said, if he doesn't beat me, nobody will. So he just happened to have a bad race. He hit a couple of hurdles. He had a little injury. He was nursing from the quarterfinals, and he didn't run his best. And I always tell people, you know, it's a bit of good luck, but when your luck comes around, you better be ready because somebody else will win. So I was ready, and I told him, we were talking, we were warming up together, we were chatting together before the race, and you know, I said, yeah, nobody else is going to beat me except you, so we're going to take 1-2. Unfortunately, he didn't hold up to his end of the bargain, but at least our group came home with gold.
And in the end, you came home with a gold medal. That's an awesome story about him as well. Okay, afterwards, you're on top of the podium. You hear the Canadian national anthem. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. What are the fond memories like from that moment for you?
Here's a bit of a story. I'm not sure. Again, not sure who your audience is here, but
we'll find out.
Yeah, we will. 16 years of trying. Fourth in Los Angeles, seventh in Seoul, fourth in a bunch of world championships leading up to Barcelona. 16 years of pain and struggle and failure, and I have no recollection of being on the podium whatsoever. And that's the reason being is after the race, they take you from the track right to drug testing. So before you go on the podium, they take you straight to the drug testing room. Colin doesn't drink, so I haven't had a drink in 3 years. I don't eat on the days I compete, so that's 2 days without food. All I do is drink coffee all day, so I had about 20 cups of coffee. It was 40 degrees or 30-something degrees in Barcelona, so I was dehydrated. And after they took me to make you to go to the bathroom faster to get the athletes in and out of there, they can have water, but they give you beer. So since I was sort of celebrating and they wanted me to get out of there fast, I had 12 beers in 30 minutes. And yeah, after not drinking for 3 years. So I don't even remember being on the podium, let alone hearing the national anthem. So 16 years of trying to get there. And if it wasn't on TV, I wouldn't have even remembered it.
12 beers in 30 minutes. I mean, like that's pretty impressive in itself.
I'm a power drinker. When I do, all or nothing with me.
It's like
hydrated, so I was just pounding them back.
Yeah, it's like whenever I hang out with your son too, Clay. We just we go as hard as we can.
That's nothing for Clay. He does that nightly.
So I was going to ask you about your game day routine. So I played hockey all my life, and I was a goalie, so I was a little weird or different, some would say. When I get to the rink, I couldn't talk to anyone. I was locked in and focused. So you didn't eat on game day. When did that start, and why did you start it?
You know what? They have these things now. Everybody's heard about it with health and the fitness world is intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I've been doing that my whole life. I never eat before I train. So if I'm training at 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, I don't eat till 5 o'clock. And all I do is I have a bunch of coffee in the morning. I may have 3-4 cups of coffee in the morning. We'll train a little bit. I'll have a couple cups of coffee at lunchtime. Go back, train some more. And then basically I'll have one meal at night, and that's it. So I've done that for millennia. I've done that forever. And Barcelona was no different. So we have 2 days of competing. So we have heats and quarterfinals on one day, semifinals and finals on the next day. And the semifinals and finals are at 7 and 9 at night. So basically went 2 days without food and a lot of coffee.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's my game day routine. Never eat. I get up early. I like to get up really early in the morning. Again, I just start pounding back coffee. Number one, gets you a little bit hyped. Number
Oh, yeah.
two, staves off hunger. So, and I just feel better. I've tried eating, over the years. I'm like, this is stupid. You got to eat something. And I've tried eating. I just never run as well. So I never eat on the day, especially when I compete. But I don't even eat on days like on training days.
It's funny you mentioned intermittent fasting. I was going to ask you about this later, but I've been actually doing the diet for about almost 2 years now. And I actually have Crohn's disease myself, and it significantly helped my Crohn's. I wasn't even trying to help it. I was just trying to lose some pounds. And it's helped me in the gym as well. Or I guess not in the gym in this day and age, but just stay in shape and get stronger. And I'm fascinated by the coffees all day and the one meal at night. So is it a big meal at night or with just like a regular sized meal?
Yeah, well, now I do things a little bit different because I'm not competing anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it was a regular sized meal. A regular sized meal for us might have been, 1,500 calories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're pretty hungry by then. But nowadays, I hate all these terms. Any diets, keto, paleo, all these names they have, and even for training, all these different. Like there's no core work back then. There was no, all these things that people come up with to make money. Basically, we did all these things. There was no name for them. So, yeah. But now the good thing is what I've been doing lately with the athletes I work with, and my busy season is now. So when the hockey guys get off of playing, obviously, until they go back into camp and play again. But in the winter, what I do is I have some other clients who are not athletes, and I usually before or after work or before or after school, and all day long I just study. So what I do is I know what works. Now I know there's a bunch of different ways that work, but nobody can deny that what we did work because everybody in my group was either a world champion, Olympic champion, or world ranked.
Yeah.
So we know that our system worked, and that's what the type of system I use with all my athletes. There are other ways that work, but people are experimenting. I look at what I did and figure out, okay, how did I get there? What did I do to get there? What were the training regimes we did? What was the food that we ate? What were the supplements we took? So I always say, okay, and now there's so much information, so many new studies with intermittent fasting and the effects it has on different organs or organ systems in your body. And so I'm just trying to figure out now how I did it right. So I know I did it right because you don't get over not doing it right. Okay, so what are the pieces? Now where are the studies to back up what I did?
Yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, you need to do this, 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 and this, and but that doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. Just do it because it works. And now we have the studies and the research to prove that intermittent fasting works. That certain supplements work. That certain foods are good for you, and certain foods are bad for you. Like all these things are coming out now. We didn't have that information back then.
One athlete I want to ask you about in particular is Max Domi, who you train and do work with. How did you guys get connected, and what's it like working with him?
Nightmare. I hope he's watching this.
Yeah, me too.
So I used to know Ty back in the day.
Right.
I didn't train him, but I used to train with him at one of the clinics that I worked at. And he's always loved track work. So. A couple of years ago, he was down in Arizona and he came home for the summer and he goes, I want to do something different. I don't want him to go to the regular strength and conditioning places. I want him to do track work. So we hooked up and we did the first year, and that was the year he went to Montreal, and he just crushed it. So it was a great year, great season. Last year wasn't as good, but he had a few more. He came off a couple of injuries last year, and one thing we have to work, as you probably know, is he's type 1 diabetic.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard to do workouts where, his blood sugar is not crashing, or he's, if it's high all night, he doesn't have the energy during the day. So training is a little more challenging because there's a lot more variation in what we need to do. It's not like all my other guys. If you're tired, don't care. You're going to go till you puke. Can't do that with Max.
No, you can't literally do it. Yeah.
He's a very intense guy. He's very smart. Comes to hockey and it comes to training. He knows what he needs to do. He knows his body very well. He spends a lot of time in recovery, which most people don't do, because I have always believed, and I hate when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm overtraining." Guys, I work with all ranges of hockey players, and they have no idea what training is, let alone overtraining. I work with guys generally AAA from about 15 until all the way up to pros. And sometimes I'll do a workout and they're just on the floor throwing up, go home. They need 3 days off. And I'll do that same workout 4 more times that day. And then I'll do it again the next day, and then the next day, and then they'll come back the day after, and then I'll do their workouts again. And I'm 60, and these guys are like 20. So they have no idea what training is. They think they're training, and that's what I say. When they go in the gyms and they do all this, all this, I don't even know what they call it, strength work. It's not working out. And the sooner they learn that, the better they're going to be. Because if a 60-year-old can keep up with them or beat them or crush them, they shouldn't even be in the NHL. Forget about being good in the NHL.
I was just going to ask that. So you're doing these workouts side by side with the athletes. That's got to be motivating for the athlete, because let's say the athlete's training with someone else and it's a bigger guy who's sipping a coffee or something and saying, do another lap, but you're out there kicking their ass.
I do it with, and that's, I've always liked that, because I'm like, I don't like, exactly, those guys who tell you what to do. Like, I'll do everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe in it, if I can't do it, then you should be able to do it.
Right.
So I said I work out with all of them all day long.
That's fascinating. I'm really, really intrigued, and that's really cool. Obviously, the working out aspect of getting in shape is crucial, but nutrition recovery is as well. I know Max has a couple of different. It's not a chamber where you put your legs in, but it's like some sort of recovery methods. Do you have any recommended recovery methods for some athletes, whether it's hot and cold tub or yoga, stretching?
Here's the thing with training. Although there's a template for training and there's a template for eating, everybody's individual.
Yeah.
So one method may not work for there's recovery is so important, and I think that's why Max does well in his training, is because we have the thing. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's called Whoop. A lot of athletes are on it.
Yes. Yeah.
All the golfers are on it, and I also got a thing called an Aura Ring.
Okay.
So both of these track your recovery. So everybody's on my app, and I can see what they're doing, and I can gauge my training off of their recovery. And I can also gauge what they've done the night before. So, like, for example, if you go drinking, it shows up. Like, I can see, because your recovery is going to be way down just from a glass of, and I see it all the time. A weekend out with the boys, and it takes them 3 days to recover. So I tell people, people try to complicate things. Like, don't get me wrong, being an athlete's not easy, but it's simple. It's just like, what do you want? And, what do you want to pay for it? So if you want this, you need to do this. If you want this and you're doing this, you ain't going to make it. So it's that simple. So Max is really good at recovering. So there are, like, Max is like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of recovery. He's got a sauna in his basement. He's got a cold tub in his basement. He's got Pilates equipment in his basement. He's got the Normatex. There's Pulse. I got one of his machines here. It's like $25,000 for this Pulse electronic magnetic resonance machine. It's like, there are so many different things. Depends on how much you want to spend. But whatever it is, just like training, just like eating, has to be done consistently. If you just do it once here and then, next week, like, it doesn't work. And Max is very strict with the way he does his recovery. Meditation, yoga, breathing, all those things help your recovery. Most people aren't going to do that daily. You have to do it daily. Yeah.
Huh. That's that's for the high profile athlete, the guy who's making millions of dollars or playing professionally. But how about someone, let's say someone listening or watching this who is in their mid 40s, they just want to lose their 20 pounds or they just want to get in better shape. What sort of recommendation would you have for someone like your average Joe, I guess, per se?
Okay, well, I have clients like that, and don't complicate things. Most trainers. And again, it's like anything, it's like business. Like, there's 5% of people are good at what they do. The rest of them, without being too harsh, are useless. Yeah. If you go to a gym, most of the trainers are useless. And the reason they give you programs and change your program around every day is because they want you to come back. I've been doing the same type of circuit training, the same type of running, the same type of programs for 50 years now. But most people won't do it because it's boring. It's like, I got to do that again. Like, we've been doing it for 3 weeks now. You got to do that for the rest of your life. If you want to be felt and healthy, you know. So, for example, I'm at Centennial Park. There's a hill there I've been going since 1974. Okay? I run up the hill 10 times. I take 3 minutes rest in between each one. I've taken marathoners up there who go up there 3 times and they're throwing up. So it's just, businesswoman once told me, success is repetition of mundane tasks. That's all it is. If you can keep doing it over and over and over, like, again, we know what works. There might be other ways that work. We know what works. If you do it, find something really, really simple, not easy, but simple, and repeat that forever, you will lose weight, you will be healthy. People think I'm a little extreme, and I am. Like, I don't drink anymore. I used to have a bottle of wine a night. Mm-hmm. Now, if I drink, I don't sleep well. I can tell, and I don't feel good. People say, like, you know, where's the fun in that? Well, you know what? Where the fun in for me is getting up every morning feeling great. Yeah. Like, people will take a supplement here or do that, and they're going like, take this, you feel better? I'm like, how can you feel better than great? I feel great every single day I get up. That's fun for me.
That's an awesome attitude to have. It's very inspirational as well. A couple more before we let you go. I've worked out with your son Clay. So for all listeners and viewers who don't know, Clay and I he's one of my best friends. And whenever we've worked out, I feel like I'm close to dying, but like not quite there. And then he says, now the workout begins. That was just a warm up. So you've taught your son well.
I don't know. You know, Clay's also had the opportunity one day. Again, quick. I know you don't keep you too long here.
No, please.
He really didn't do any sports. Like, he did a little bit of football, a little boxing, go out through high school, but he wasn't into track. He wasn't into any of that stuff. And after, he's got some cousins in Texas. He went down to, after he finished high school, and they all did track. And he came home. He goes, Dad, I want to be a sprinter. I want to run like my cousins. And like, you know, yeah. He goes, can you train me? I'm like, nope. They go, you want to run 100? And I picked up the phone and I called Usain's coach. And I said, you want to run 100? You're going to train with Usain Bolt. So he went down to Jamaica for 6 months. And he came back and he said he just died. It was so hard. Like, again, like I said, most people go to gyms and work out. They think they're fit until you actually do some conditioning, some real conditioning. So yeah, he's pretty fit. Like, he's jacked. Don't get me wrong. He made me look skinny. But I'll take him out on track any day of the week.
I think I would pay to watch that. I mean, there hasn't been much to bet in sports in the last 3 months or so. So we'll take some odds on that. But like, he's had some success as an athlete as well. What's it been like just seeing him succeed and get, you know, big and strong and jacked?
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's got a great attitude. Obviously, didn't get that from his father. But, no, he's into health and fitness, and that's all I care about. I never push my kids into sport. If they want to do it, I'll support them 100%, like I did with him, and send him to Jamaica. And he came back and he said, Dad, no, sorry, it costs a lot of money to go down to Jamaica. I'm like, you know what? How many people in the world get to work out with the best at whatever they do? Be around that, just the mentality, the attitudes of those people. I would mortgage my house to have him go down there. So, you know, he's a great kid. And like I said, in my world, your health is second to none. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much success you have. As you can see now, without your health, you have nothing. Uh-huh. So he's definitely into health and wellness. And like I said, he treats people well. He's a nice guy. People like him. He's trained some of my clients for me when I wasn't around. So I think I did well.
I think you did very well. He's a great guy, and he brightens up every room he gets into, whether we're drinking a couple beers or just hanging out, shooting the breeze. He's a great dude. Well, Mark, we really appreciate your time today. Congrats on all your success you've had, and I'm hoping to maybe get in one of your workouts at some point where I will probably die.
Come on over, Adam, anytime.
In your life, have you seen anything like that?
Wow. Just some awesome stuff there from Mark McKoy. Really appreciate one of my good buddies Clay, his son, setting up the interview with Mark. I actually haven't met Mark in person. Looking forward to doing that hopefully sometime very soon. Well, 14 episodes in the books. It's been a fun ride so far, and I'm looking forward to bringing you many more. Don't forget, subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. And as well, I'll be posting these episodes every Friday on Twitter on my personal account, Adam_Scully. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next time right here on the Scully Scoop Podcast.